Hello, everyone, and welcome to Salesforce for Newbies. This is just a quick note before we get started. Halfway through the session, the recording will change, and this is because the first half of the session is actually re-recorded. The reason for this is that I actually just completely lost my voice just after the first live session. So we went back once I had my voice and recorded the first session for you all so that you get to hear it a bit more clearly with a bit more excitement when I'm back in full health. I hope you guys enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Salesforce for Newbies with Salesforce Training New Zealand. We're up to session 3 now, and it's great to see everyone here and to everyone who is watching this recorded session later on. In our last session, we talked about tips on how to get admin certified. We covered what does it mean to be a Salesforce admin? What does it mean to be Salesforce admin certified? What is the commitment like, both in money and time? What are the 3 pillars of passing a successful Salesforce exam? What is each pillar? Why is it important? And what are some of our best tools and strategies for achieving these pillars? We then went over some of our top tips and tricks for studying. And then we heard from our VIP guest, who's 18 times certified, Bill. And yes, he did get another certification in between our last session, which is just crazy. Bill shared his strategies, websites, and tools that have gotten him through 18 certifications and how you can use them to start your admin certification journey today. Speaking of admin journeys, thank you to everyone who has signed up for 0 to 100. And a massive thank you to all of those who have had catch-ups with the team booked for this week. We'll be letting you know the next steps by the weekend. If you haven't signed up, but you are interested in getting started in Salesforce, then this course is really going to be a massive jump start for you. You can check out more in the link that our team is putting in the chat or at our website, www.salesforcetraining.co.nz. It's that easy. All right. So today we are looking at a day in the life of a Salesforce admin. Our session today is going to look something like this. We'll start with going over the 5 main roles and responsibilities of a Salesforce admin. What actually makes up the day-to-day job of an admin? What are their most common tasks and scenarios? And what sort of impact are they having? What's their purpose and why is it important? Then we'll take a deep dive into each of these sections, taking a look at each role in a little more detail, one by one. We'll take a look at the highs and the lows of the job, and then we'll invite our VIP guest, Barcham, into the conversation to take it from there. Very exciting to have him here. We'll finish off with some Q&A as usual, and then that's session 3, done and dusted. I can't believe that we're here already. So let's get into it. Now, it's important to point out at the beginning that a Salesforce admin has many different roles, not just these 5. It is entirely possible that you could end up in a Salesforce admin role where you're doing very little or none of these 5 things. These 5 are, however, some of the more common aspects and tasks in a wider number of Salesforce admin positions. So chances are, if you're wanting to become a Salesforce admin, you'll end up being familiar with majority of these. So what are these mysterious 5 roles? Well, the first is business reviews and recommendations. The second is researching and vetting new tools. The third is managing the Salesforce platform. The fourth is configuration and integration. And the 5th is documentation and training. Does that all sound a little bit like gibberish? Don't worry, we're going to be going over these in far more detail. But before we get into that nitty-gritty, let's talk a little bit more about the impact of a Salesforce admin. To put it bluntly, the impact you're having here is massive. As a Salesforce admin, you're really responsible for the upkeeping of pretty much the backbone of the entire organization. You'll be working across all areas of business and communicating with all sorts of different people, from sales to IT to marketing to finance. Pretty much everyone can be involved in using Salesforce. This makes the job of a Salesforce admin extremely stimulating, as the challenges and tasks will always be changing. What's more, you're actually making a huge difference to the business and to people's lives. It's amazing what a big difference a tiny bit of automation in Salesforce can make to someone's workday. It could save them hours of work or stress, free up so much mental capacity in their brain. They could spend more time doing other more pressing work or with their kids, or generally just making someone's day just a little bit better. Having the chance to achieve these things every day is really an incredible opportunity and one absolutely worth seeking out. It's a rewarding job with plenty of room to grow, to develop new skills, and to build even better solutions that change even more lives. So with that, let's take a look at our first role of a Salesforce admin: business reviews and recommendations. Business reviews and recommendations is basically just translating business requirements and needs into Salesforce recommendations and outcomes. This often involves meeting with both executives and end users. To do this role, you really need to understand the business inside and out. So if you don't know much about how the business operates when you start, then you soon will. This helps you make recommendations for improving the user experience and optimizing business processes across pretty much every department. Because of the large number of people that you're talking to, communication is absolutely key when it comes to being a successful Salesforce admin. Understanding needs and keeping those communication lines open is really critical to a successful Salesforce CRM solution. Mostly, you can think about this as kind of times when you're working with different teams to gather requirements. But there are other aspects to this. For example, seeing how people are currently using Salesforce and what process can be automated or improved is also a part of a Salesforce admin's role. In this aspect of a Salesforce admin's role, I'd say that patience and good communication are the most critical skills to have at hand. Just being able to communicate clearly what is possible, what is not possible, and in what sort of time frame, while making people feel heard and understood, will make you just a fantastic Salesforce admin. Our second aspect of a Salesforce admin role is researching and vetting new tools. As an admin, you'll constantly be researching what the best tools are, whether you're going with this way or that way. Is this the best way to build your Salesforce org? Is that the best way to build your Salesforce org? It's important to stay on top of Salesforce news and trends, so keeping up to date with all of the bits of relevant Salesforce research is always a good thing. Some great ways to make this easier for yourself is to join a community group. The talks at community groups are often centralized on the latest tools and resources, so going to these events is a really great way to stay up to speed while also enjoying what you're doing and meeting some super cool like-minded people. Plus, there's always the possibility of free food. Never underestimate the power of a free meal or pizza. Seriously, it goes a long way. As well as community groups, there's plenty and plenty of Salesforce blogs that you can subscribe to, Facebook groups, and even YouTube channels. Find a medium that suits you best and just get stuck in. Our third aspect of a Salesforce admin role is probably the most obvious one, or the one that people think of straight away: managing the Salesforce platform. This involves a lot of routine tasks, such as unlocking user accounts or resetting passwords due to forgetfulness all the time, dealing with SSO or two-factor authentication or certificate issues, helping users to develop or fine-tune reports so that they actually yield meaningful results, troubleshooting things like email campaigns, workflows, approval cycles, or any sort of auto responses that generate usually excessive bounced emails, expanding or refining sharing rules and access privileges so that records can be properly viewed or manipulated, and fixing data records that have somehow been set with a record type or ownerships that makes them inaccessible to the users that actually need them. However, that's kind of just a basic list, and there is so much more to this than meets the eye. As new changes and releases in Salesforce come up, you'll need to make changes to the platform and update it for your business. The reality is that managing the Salesforce platform looks different to every business and every organization, but the objective is always the same: to deliver a sustainable, effective solution. Number 4, configuration and integration. Sometimes from a business review or just a task that ended up in your backlog, you'll realize an integration between Salesforce and another app is needed. You might integrate Marketo, like something that I've done, or Xero, another project that I've worked on. This configuration is not something that's often written up in step-by-step instructions, which can make it challenging. It can be different for each company and complicated, especially if you have a large number of parties involved in a project. Understandably, however, the configuration of outside tools that are needed within Salesforce is important. They're essential for providing clients a holistic solution that helps them across the entire business. And honestly, a little bit of work on integration saves you a whole lot of time. You don't have to build that entire app from scratch. Because some of the work for configuration integration can be so custom, admins might often be required to work with developers on new feature designs, new launches, new architectures. This is just another layer of communication and often opens up a whole new world for a Salesforce admin. Perhaps you'll even end up doing the role of Salesforce admin, developer, and consultant all by yourself. Our last aspect of a Salesforce admin job is documentation and training. You're not going to be at a company forever, and when you go, it's important that you leave behind an epic set of instructions so that people can continue on the awesome work that you've done. Heck, it's important to write documentation for yourself to understand what you did and how you did what you did last week, last month, or even yesterday. Creating good documentation is an important and unfortunately largely neglected part of being a Salesforce admin. Documentation can be an excellent time saver. You can create a set of documents for your team to help them understand the basic functions of Salesforce, or create some simple instructions on how they can put together a report by themselves. This could be immensely beneficial to you and your team, freeing up your time to focus on larger challenges and increasing the team's knowledge of Salesforce. You may even set up some ongoing training sessions with your team members to provide additional support, comfort, and confidence in the Salesforce production org. Some popular areas of training include things like building reports, dashboard management, usually for mid to senior levels of management. That's quite popular. Managing cases, email automations, list views, a whole bunch of stuff, really. There's always so much to learn in Salesforce and so much that you can teach your team that's going to be useful for them. So that's our 5 aspects of being a Salesforce admin. Next, I'll run you through what my day often looks like when I'm doing some admin work for a company. So this is the day in the life of myself in a Salesforce admin role. Typically, a day would start at 9 a.m. with a stand up with your internal team and various implementation partners, whoever these may be. At 10 a.m., I'm probably working through some chunky tasks from my backlog, typically integrations. From 11:30, I usually meet with some internal people within the business to go over some business requirements for an upcoming new feature, go over some requests that people have, things like that. Around 12, around lunchtime, I usually jump on a call with one of our website developers to discuss anything really related to the website. This could be, for example, a web to lead functionality. At 1 p.m., some user stories for a new portal system that's pulling data from Salesforce. So this is an external system that's using the information in Salesforce. At 2 p.m., I might jump on some of my smaller backlog issues. And usually just somehow from 3:30 p.m. onwards, I usually get the emergency requests from around the office. And that's really for you as an admin to really gauge, is this actually an emergency? Or can this be catalogued and put in the backlog? And I usually deal with those or work back on my backlog or any of these other tasks until about 5 o'clock when I shut down my laptop and head home. Now, this could all vary greatly. Some days I work from home for the whole day. Other days I work from home until lunchtime or vice versa. Sometimes I'm in meetings all day. Other times I have more time to get large chunks of projects done. Some days I just receive request after request after request for these small kind of urgent tasks, and others, funnily enough, when I'm working from home, mysteriously have no urgent tasks and I'm allowed to get stuck into some of the more heavy duty projects. I think what we're getting at here is that the role of a Salesforce admin differs hugely day to day, which I think is awesome. It means you're never really going to get bored in your job and you're always interacting with a bunch of different people. It's really a fantastic job for anyone who likes to problem solve, to help people, and to learn. All right, so I'm quickly going to whiz through some of the most challenging parts of being a Salesforce admin, and then we'll pass it over to our VIP guest, Mark. One of the hardest parts is prioritizing different tasks while making sure that everyone is still happy. Honestly, a challenge in a lot of roles, but I think the key here is just to be practiced in your communication and managing expectations. You're only human after all, and people know that, so be clear about what is and isn't possible and what the time frame is, and I think that will help a lot. Secondly, a difficult part can be keeping up with all of the new functionality while being in an admin role. It can be quite challenging, especially when you're just trying to do it all by yourself. It's really something that is way more fun and enjoyable to do in a group, which is why we recommend the community user groups so highly. I think in general, it's important to know that being a Salesforce admin is a tough job. There's always so much to learn, and there's a big learning curve after every new release or new feature. If you're prone to getting bored, then this will work really well for you. But also know that it can get quite highly pressurized when people want new features, they want them fast, and they don't appreciate that actually, as an admin, you have to learn these too. Thankfully, on the flip side, there are some super awesome parts of being a Salesforce admin. Being a Salesforce admin does mean flexible working most of the time. It means working at home or in the office because Salesforce just runs in the cloud. So it goes where you go as long as the internet is there. I think a massive positive of the job is the fact that you're always learning. Now, I know that before we said that that was also a bit of a challenge, but the idea that you're constantly improving and upskilling, and that's just a part of your job, is actually a really fantastic thing. So once you're in the job, then you're kind of in this awesome cycle of always upskilling, always learning, always just becoming more and more valuable, which is really, really fantastic. It's a nice kind of cycle of success that you're entering. Finally, there's such a wide range of work available, not just in the market in different industries, but also within your day-to-day job. No 2 days will be the same, and you'll constantly be facing different challenges and knowledge. It's exciting, it's flexible, it's full of growth. And to me, that's pretty much an ideal situation. Oh, a bit too far there. All right, so just remember that if you are interested in pursuing Salesforce, but you have no previous experience, then our 0 to 1 course is really a fantastic opportunity. We are so excited about this course. It's taking you from knowing absolutely nothing about Salesforce to being a fully certified Salesforce system admin with a guaranteed job offer for you on completion of the course. Plus, you get 4 weeks worth of real world Salesforce project experience to add to your project CV and just to your experience bank. If you're interested, then jump on our website, www.salesforcetraining.co.nz, to find out more. All right, so that finishes up my part of the presentation today. We're going to be doing some Q&A at the end, but I'll pass it over to Mark now to introduce himself and to share his story with us. All right, I don't know if you guys heard that. I certainly did. But thank you all for that bit. I'm going to pass it over to Mark now, and then we'll come back for some Q&A. So Mark, I'll stop sharing my screen. And then you can jump in.
Alrighty. Right, let me just see if I can get this thing going. Apologies if I cut out partway through. I live in provincial New Zealand, about an hour north of Wellington, and because I'm in a rural area, I am fully at the mercy of rural broadband, which sometimes goes a little bit sideways when you least expect it. So let me just turn the screen share on. Turn on that one. Alrighty. Is that working, Amber?
Yeah, that looks great. I can see that clearly. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Mark Barcham. I'm the platform administrator, or Salesforce platform administrator at ANZ Bank. I think this is a great topic for me to jump onto because yeah, I am a Salesforce administrator. I've been working in the Salesforce ecosystem for about 5.5 years now, but I've actually got quite a solid background in IT, working in a real assortment of roles, kind of covering the full spectrum: sysadmin, business analyst, DBA, SysOps, infrastructure, CRM, ERP. So I've done a bit of everything. I am a self-taught Salesforce admin. So I was kind of pitched in the deep end and pretty much learnt it as I went. Yeah, I've got the administrator certification. Unlike Bill, who some of you who were on the call last week, I haven't got 18 certs. I've only got the one at the moment, but that's probably because I don't do a lot with certifications. I spend most of my time just getting the work done. So I just thought that I would do a little bit of just my little journey in Salesforce. So I essentially, if I go back to 2015, I was actually considering a career change, strangely enough, and I gave myself a year to think about what I wanted to do. As far as Salesforce is concerned, the company I was working for at the time made a bold announcement that they were going to trial this system called Salesforce, and I was going to end up having to support that thing. So I discovered the Trailhead site in late 2015, and actually spent a Christmas break learning all about Salesforce. 6 months later, I was actually running a Salesforce instance as a solo admin within a government department. So that's kind of really pitching in at the deep end there, because like I say, I had a lot of experience in CRM systems, but not a lot with Salesforce. So had to really dive in there to work out what was going on in that environment and learn it so that I could support it. It was actually a system that had been implemented but had a few teething issues, so it needed quite a lot of work in order to get up and going. But then later in that year, I discovered the Wellington user group. And that really changed the game, because then I discovered that I wasn't alone. So working as a sole admin, as Amber mentioned, can be quite daunting sometimes, because you are essentially it. And sometimes it really helps just to have other people around that you can ask questions to, so that you can find those answers that you need. That all kind of culminated to doing a migration of their primary site to the Lightning user interface. That was quite a job. I did that myself. The key point with that migration was taking advantage of a lot of the low code elements of the Lightning interface that Salesforce has been migrating a lot of things to. You're all fairly new to Salesforce, so what you see is essentially the Lightning user interface, the classic user interface, which dates back to early 2000s, was not as flexible as the Lightning interface. So as a result, the site that I was working on was very code heavy. So migrating it actually managed to eliminate a lot of the code elements that had been put into that site. We also had an external site. The site that I was operating was for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and they ran a scholarship program where people from other countries or developing nations could apply for tertiary and short-term scholarships in New Zealand. And we had the applications were accepted online through a Salesforce community site, and we did a major upgrade of that in 2019. On the back of those upgrades, I actually got selected into a program that Salesforce ran called Salesforce Platform Champions. So that was quite an achievement, given that the program, when they wound it up probably about 2 months ago, there were only about 550 people in the Platform Champions program. Only 3 of them were in New Zealand, so it was quite a big deal. I also had the opportunity to do a presentation on those upgrades to a virtual global audience in July during lockdown. So that was quite a story in itself. And then I joined ANZ Bank at the end of last year to implement Salesforce into the bank. So that's quite a very large project. So no longer working as a solo admin, now working as part of a team, and really expanding my knowledge even further. So that's kind of been where my Salesforce journey has kind of taken me. I thought what I'd do is just kind of show you something that you can probably do for yourself. this was a little thing that I built for MFAT. It's an incredibly low code solution that was based on something that I found on a very good community site called Salesforce Ben. The requirement was I was getting a lot of requests from the user community in emails, and occasionally I would get absolutely flooded with emails, and it was sometimes a little hard to keep track of what was going on. At one point, my backlog was up over 120 items, and trying to track all of that stuff in an Excel spreadsheet based off emails was proving to be quite complicated, quite difficult. So we didn't use case management, Salesforce case management. It wasn't really a big enough site in order to do that. So what I did was I built a little bit of functionality that I called tickets. It's essentially it's a single object which allows users to log bugs, requests, whatever, in a simple capture form within the platform itself, and they can generate it by using a global action off the main menu. So it keeps everything within the one place, and then I was able to automate it or put automation around it so that if someone logged something, it would send me a notification to say there's a new ticket to have a look at, and then I could assign it to other people within the organization if it was something that wasn't necessarily something that I needed to do, but something that one of the business team needed to deal with. So it had multi-purposes. It was incredibly easy to build, and it allowed me to report off the number of requests that were coming through as well. So it was quite a neat little thing. So if you want to have a go at trying to build something within a Salesforce instance, this is a great thing to try out, because it is very, very quick, very easy. You can adapt it as much as you like. What I built was very much customized for what MFAT required, but you can build it to do anything that you like. And it's a great little thing because there's zero code, and I love zero code. Because I'm an admin, I'm not a dev. I try to avoid code as much as possible, and I certainly don't write it. So to be able to build something like this from scratch with no code, just kind of shows you what admins can do in this platform. So for me, why Salesforce? Obviously, for me, I'm not a developer, so I'm a real champion of low-code configuration solutions and reusable components. And Salesforce really enables this by empowering low-code development. Trailhead. Trailhead is probably the secret sauce for Salesforce. It's hands-on learning, which allows you to experiment. And yeah, I've had scenarios where I've wanted to try out a new piece of functionality, but maybe a licensed product that I didn't have a license for in my org, and I just wanted to kind of play around and see what it could do before I committed to anything. And I actually did something like that back in 2018 with the analytics module, where I actually took some sample data and imported it into a Trailhead org, and played around to see what I could do with it. And part of what I did with that was actually presented at a Basecamp conference in Auckland by Salesforce. Strangely enough, they like to steal my ideas, and they were even quite surprised that someone would even think about doing something like that. So Trailhead is a fantastic resource, and I highly recommend working through there. And finally, the user community. That is the biggest benefit, I would say. You have access to thousands of highly active and engaged people around the world willing to answer any question and share their knowledge, meaning that you're never alone, even when working as a sole Salesforce resource in your company. So yeah, given where I was in 2015, it's probably fair to say that Salesforce has changed my life. Thank you very much. Back to you, Amber.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark. Yeah, that's a really inspiring story. And you've just done some amazing work. So it's really, really cool. Thank you for sharing that little project with us. I know that I've seen some people even create sort of similar things in orgs to keep track of personal projects, whether it's their own sort of notes or to-do lists or planning a project that they're working on, or even I've seen examples of people who have a wedding coming up and they plan their wedding in Salesforce just for the practice of putting together something like that. So that's really, really cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. So now is kind of the time that we turn it over to some Q&A if we have any. It's 1:15, so we've got plenty of time here if anyone has any questions that they would like to ask. I can see in the Q&A that we had a bit of a problem with the screen when I was doing the first half. It looks like the left part of the screen was cutting out. So I'm really sorry about that, guys. I'm not really too sure what was going on there. But when I go and re-record that first section, then we'll make sure that we've got that screen all up and working. So yeah, if you guys have any questions for Mark or for myself, then now's a really fantastic time to think them over and to ask them. Anything Salesforce related, I think, would go down well. But while we're giving people a chance to just think that over, Mark, I have a question for you. For what was it called? The part of your journey where you were doing, you were in that group of Salesforce people from around the world. There were only about 3 from New Zealand. What was that called again? Sorry.
Yeah, that was the Platform Champions.
The Platform Champions.
It used to be known as used to be called Lightning Champions.
That's the one.
And then they renamed it because Lightning had kind of the purpose of kind of pushing Lightning had kind of reached its zenith, I suppose. So it was more about the platform than it was about the UI.
Yeah. So I had a question about that, which was, how did you get part of that? Was there a selection process? Did you have to apply? Did they shoulder tap you? What was the process for that?
I got nominated, strangely enough. Anna is the one that I will blame for that.
Oh, awesome. That's cool.
So yeah, it's partly nomination, partly application. Right. But the selection is so applying for it or being nominated for it was no guarantee. So I think when I got put in there, I think they had about 400 nominations, and they only selected about 80 globally in that year. So they were really looking for people with that kind of the type of experience and knowledge that can make a difference to the community.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Abhishek has a question here, and then I saw that Ling had raised his hand as well, so we'll go to Ling after this if he has a question. A question was, how much time does it take to get good hands-on experience on Salesforce? Quite a broad question. Do you want to take a stab at that, Mark?
Yeah. You're always learning, essentially. For a good grounding on it, I guess it depends on how much time you're willing to put in. Like I say, I went from knowing nothing about Salesforce to running a Salesforce instance in 6 months. I know other people who took a lot less time than that to pick it up. So it really depends on how much knowledge do you want to ground yourself on, because Salesforce is an enormous product now, and it's highly unlikely that you'll ever learn everything that you need to know. So yeah, I would say probably between if you know nothing about it and you've never worked with a CRM system before, I would allow yourself probably at least 6 months. If you've already worked with CRM systems before and it's just Salesforce that's new, probably a lot less than that.
Yeah, good answer. All right, I think Ling raised his hand before, but I'm not too sure. Ling, if you had a question, then it's probably best to put it in the Q&A if you wanted to do that, and then we can get to that one. Did anyone else have any questions here from the audience? I guess something I've been asking all of our panelists here, and we've got Anna coming on Thursday, which will be great, is what advice would you give for a group that is starting out in Salesforce, that is completely new, and that is really looking to make an awesome career and a lifestyle in Salesforce?
Good question. I think from my perspective, it's just to get involved with it. I mean, Trailhead is a great thing, and like I say, you can just go through and do a lot of the modules and the projects. Super badges are fantastic because they allow you to, rather than just follow the steps, to actually have a think about how to deliver something. So based on a set of requirements, how to actually build something without being told exactly what to do. And you can do that with a lot of Trailhead things as well. So once you've got yourself an enabled Trailhead org, I encourage people to just experiment with it. Have a look around, have a look at the settings, see what they all do. I also highly encourage you to find a user group. I mean, it doesn't even need to be a local one now, because since the lockdown last year, all the user groups have gone virtual, and there's a lot of information that you can learn from other people. So hit up the site, trailheadcommunitygroups.com, I think it is, and just see what topics are being offered, and just register and join one of those sessions and just see what they have to say. You can learn an incredible amount of stuff from a very large, unlimited pool of people. yeah, that's what I'd probably recommend at this point.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Absolutely. Cool. We've got a couple more questions from Abhishek here. I think where can I start in Salesforce? I think you just covered that, Mark. I think that's quite applicable to that question. And then this question here is, can a person from a totally different field walk into Salesforce and get a career into it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the simple answer. I know people who have done it. Yes, is the simple answer to that. It's really, again, it's how much you want to invest in the journey, I suppose. Certainly, as far as CRM systems are concerned, although Salesforce is so much more than a CRM system now, the real difference, I think, is Trailhead, because I mean, certainly over my journey, I've been in this game for nearly 30 years. This has been probably the easiest system for me to pick up because of Trailhead. Most of the other systems that I've worked with over my career, I haven't been able to learn it in a hands-on way. A lot of it has been, here's a bunch of videos to watch of people doing things, but it's one thing to be kind of talked at to learn something. It's a completely another one to actually be set loose on the system itself to do whatever it is that you want to do. And I think that for people who might be coming from a background not in IT, or not in a business where these types of systems might be familiar to you, then that the ability to go hands-on on a system and learn it hands-on is it's invaluable, really. I have a friend who his previous career was a builder, and he got into Salesforce by going through Trailhead, learnt how it works. He's now working as a business analyst on the Salesforce platform, and he's entirely self-taught in that thing. So yes, it is possible to come from a completely different background and get into this platform.
Yeah, I would second that completely. Absolutely. There's so many stories of people switching careers or coming into this completely from an unrelated area. So it is a fantastic kind of industry and career because of that. And I think the community is really welcoming of that as well, really supportive, which, like you said, Mark, is what makes it so fantastic, you know. All right. If there's no more last minute questions coming through, I think we'll wrap it up there. A couple of minutes early, but I think that's okay here. All right. So thank you so much, Mark, for your time, and thank you, everyone, for coming along. If you do have any other questions, then just flick the Salesforce training team here an email from the emails that we've been sending you guys with the links and whatnot, and we'd be happy to follow up any questions that you have at all. But again, a massive thank you, Mark. Thank you for coming along and sharing your story. I know that a lot of people here would have been really inspired by it, and will hopefully try out that little exercise that you put up. And no doubt the people watching the recording as well will get a lot from it. So thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
Not a problem.
All right, everyone. So I'll be sending out a recording probably at the end of tomorrow that has, kind of a better recording of myself and this amazing session with Mark. So until then, we'll see you guys for session 4 on Thursday, our last session in our Salesforce for Newbies course. So thanks everyone for coming, and we'll see you next time.